I'll make it right again, but it's no use, you said. And my hunger grows and grows. I have to write the meaning of my life, or else everything's in vain. When the glory tries to tempt you, it may seem like what you need. But if glory makes you happy, why are you so broken up? So tell me how it felt when you walked on the water. Did you get your wish? Floating to the surface quicker than you sank. I know. So tell me how it felt when you walked on the water. Did you get your wish? Floating to the surface.
How are y'all doing? It is Midnight Hatter here again with another surprise build stream. Well, not technically build, but you know, the competition build that we've been working on the last couple weeks. Coming in on, I would say, probably the not the home stretch, but we're getting there. You know, we've got to have this thing wrapped up by not this weekend, but the following weekend. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend here just before the new month, before July, before America Day, and I guess Canada Day for those of you the northerners in the audience. Hey, what's going on, Ian? Pyro, you scared me. And Ultronimus, good to see you guys in chat. Hope you guys are having a good weekend and are not too hot. So I made some progress, on this kit off screen, but I do want to share some of these major updates that we've got going on. As you can see, we've got these lovely little dangling wires hanging out of the back of the Bawoo. We have successfully wired up the mono eye LED. God, look at the way that thing glows in the camera. Like, the camera probably does this more justice than it actually looks like in person. In person, it's a very subtle effect. And then I went ahead and made myself a Gundam flashlight. So here we go. Here's our little beam saber handle. We have a wire running out of it. And, let's see if I can get this thing positioned on the battery. This is my little test battery. I always use this little guy to test these things out. So we've got our little flashlight here. And, you take your beam saber effect part, plug it in here on the top, and let's see how he looks when he's got a little light in him. I'd say that's not bad, right? Like, that's gonna look good. That's competition ready right there. So the next step, we are actually going to have to cut these wires a lot shorter to the base here. And I've got a bunch of these little, well, if I had my tweezers handy, I could show you. These little scraps of metal that we are going to use, we're going to solder them to the ends of these wires. And then that is actually what's going to connect to the wire in the hand that we have. And I ran into some issues here wiring up the hand, but we'll talk about that here in a moment. I think that this is gonna come together pretty nicely. So the first issue that I noticed was, obviously, I didn't realize that part of the transformation of this kit is that you're supposed to take the hand off when it's in mobile armor mode and then spin the wrist out like this. I'm just not going to do that because, as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of parts formers anyway. So, like, if the hand does not turn inside of the wrist, then I don't want to do that, because it's not like the hand actually ejects off of the Bawoo when it transforms. So we're just going to do this, and then when it does transform, we'll just position the hand downward like that, and none will be the wiser. Now, the issue here is that we've got some other complications with this particular design here. Um, the major one is how the heck are we going to get this wire? Let's push in on this a little bit. So this is our first mystery challenge to solve today, is how the heck are we going to get this wire through the forearm? And then the arm joint here, there's no like clear channel to go through, so we need to find a way to wire this. And eventually it's going to be both wires. Like this is all just cutting and making the holes and the slots and the things for everything to go through. You know, we do need these wires to be able to go through the arm here. Now, fortunately, the shoulder is a little bit easier to manage because we actually do have, I went ahead and drilled a little hole here, and that hole is just wide enough for us to pass our wire through, and then we can run everything up and out through here, and it goes into the torso, no problem. And then once it's in there, we can run it through the same little slot where we've run our other wires. So the shoulder I'm less concerned about. I am concerned about, if I just drill a hole. Oop, lost my beam saber. There we go. If I drill a hole here and just like go through, then what's going to happen is when the arm twists up like this, you're going to have this exposed wire sticking out back here, and it's going to create tension, and it's going to probably pop that joint because it's going to be pulling the wire, unless we have tons of slack in there. So, you know, the other thing I was thinking of is maybe if we found a way to kind of like run it along the inside of this loop. So that's kind of where I was. This is basically where I've been thinking is if I put like a little hole in here and then run it along the inside of the ring, because the ring doesn't twist from this end, it only twists like here. So theoretically, you know, if we were to reassemble just the poly cap here, so theoretically anything that's done on here won't rotate, but so far. Oh yeah, sorry, I missed some chats here. That looks excellent. Thank you, Ian. Good to see you, Adam. See you in chat there. In the words of Shar, it's not treason if you never follow them to begin with. Yeah, amen, brother. Filthy imperialists. Hey, what's going on, 16xa second? Good to see you as well. Now I wish the hands just got ejected. Make a bunch of hands floating and shit. Drill a small hole into the elbow. That is a potential. And yeah, can't drill the center. It'll snap the wire when it articulates. Yeah, so it's like, what do we do to get the wire through the elbow and up into the forearm? I suppose if we wrap it around the backside. So this is an interesting. Let's visualize this without the poly cap in there, right? So like theoretically, if it's wired along the backside, then it's always going to have enough slack because it's always going to be at its longest point. Or do we wire it along the inside? I think that's what we're going to have to end up doing, is like wiring it up along the inside, because the arm isn't typically going to articulate back this far. It's going to only go inwards. And so, yeah, theoretically, if we put the hole somewhere up, I'll use my pin vise to illustrate. If we put the hole up here, then even when the arm is at its full apex of curve, it's still going to be hidden behind this. And we can actually go ahead and carve this entire piece out because this isn't even exposed. Like, that part is covered by the elbow joint. So I think we have a viable solution here. Now, that said, I do have to wire up the second beam saber, and I'm going to show you guys just how I did that. I already drilled the holes on this one. So we drilled one hole in the top here using the old pin vise. Had to make sure that it goes deep enough that it's lined up with the pins. I think that we're probably in good shape. And then this is where it gets really tricky. So I think this is the right color. Always got to test my LEDs. Yeah, that looks yellow to me. So we bend the tiny little tip of the metal wires, right? And basically we are on a hope and a prayer that we get the thing to come through the right side. I am going to try and match them, because obviously if they don't match, then it won't work when you switch beam saber hands, and that would be obnoxious to have to deal with, right? So let's grab our smaller pin for our pin vise here, or smaller drill bit, I should say. This thing has been an absolute godsend. Shout out to my older brother for picking this up for me for Christmas, because if I did not have this pin vise, I would probably be using a power drill right now. And I would probably lose a finger. Oh, and I almost forgot. I do want to share another discovery that I had with you guys. So, initially my plan was to install the battery pack somewhere inside the torso here, but there really is not any room whatsoever. So if you look here, like the wires come out right there, and actually if I were to take, here's the crotch piece of the Bawoo nutter. When it plugs in there, it goes right up against the base of the neck. Like there's absolutely no room for anything else to fit in there. So I was like, how the hell am I going to get a battery this big in here somehow? Well, hearing aids to the rescue, because here's what we have got. We've got our propellant tanks, right? And I discovered this particular size of battery. I'll show them to you here. These guys, I believe, are 377. They are each 1.5 volts, so 2 of them equals the 3 volts that you would get from the larger coin battery. And the real selling feature to me is that they fit so conveniently inside of our propellant tubes. So we can design a little battery pack holder that's going to fit right in there. You just snap it on the back, pop it off when it's time to change the batteries out. I am so excited about this discovery because it makes a huge, huge difference. Now, of course, I still need to figure out exactly where I'm going to install the switch. I was thinking I could do it right here. Unfortunately, when I was test fitting some of the wings on here, there's not any room. So like if the wing were all the way installed, there's no room for a switch there on the side, as you can tell. So like that's not going to fit in there at all. So then maybe like on the torso or something. But then you know what? Why not just have the switch installed on the bottom side of the propellant tank? So basically the finished part is going to look something like this, where it's got like the propellant tank, the switch will be sticking out from the bottom of the propellant tank, and we'll be able to turn it on and off that way. So that was an exciting discovery for me. I cannot wait to show you guys what the final product is going to look like. So hopefully you guys think that's pretty cool. I was very excited to find that there were smaller 1.5 volt batteries that we can utilize for our needs. All right, so now back to trying to thread our itty bitty wires down in through our beam saber handle. All right, I believe I've caught something. No, just kind of bent the tip here. Hey, what's going on, Zeonic Shadow? Good to see you, my friend. Okay, so I can see the little silver of the wire. There it is. So that's one. Now we just got to get the positive lead in there. I'm worried it's trying to like come out of the wrong side there. This is a lot of guesswork. It's like, you know, it might work and then you might have to start all over again because it's just the way it is. Now, I had originally drilled this hole in the top to be much, much, much smaller, but it made it a lot more difficult to get the bent wire inside the beam saber handle. So, well, Zeonic Shadow, you could get the RE100 Bawoo, or you could get the RE100 Lindworm and get the best of both worlds, where it's like a Zeta and a Bawoo. Which I'm so thankful that I pre ordered a second one, because I will probably be doing this same thing, but with the Lindworm, and then that one I think I'll paint, because this one I'm not going to do any like painting. I'm going to weather it and put some decals on it and stuff like that, but like I don't have enough time and the weather's not great for painting right now, so come on, come out of that little hole. Oh man, this is so. And for for clarification, this guy took like 45 minutes to an hour just to thread these wires down through here. So I'm going to be very upset if when I cut them down, if I screw it up and I have to redo the whole thing. Now, the nice thing about these LED wires that I've got is like they are pretty rigid, so they, you know, it's easy to kind of push them in and they hold their shape pretty well. But you know, at the end of the day, they are still wires, and so they are still soft. And so once it hits something where there's going to be some resistance, you know, they start to bend on you and start kinking and turning in weird ways. So it makes it hard to tell if you're actually getting any traction here. So I'm definitely hitting something here. I just can't tell if it's the base of the hole that I drilled or if it's like, maybe if I thread the black wire out a little bit, give myself some. I think what I'm going to do, and this is going to be a risky maneuver, is we're going to use a slightly larger drill bit here, and we're going to widen the hole so that I can actually see what I'm working on here. Definitely don't want to accidentally drill the black wire and ruin it, so I'm just going to do a gentle little widening of this gap. just trying to remind myself how impressed everyone's going to be when it's like I put the beam saber in its hand and then it lights up and it's like, whoa. So I can see the little silver guy there. Um, Now I thought about trying to use like a sewing kit and like using one of those needle threaders to try and get in there, and it didn't work. So yeah, see the problem is I keep bumping into the black wire on the way down. I really don't want to have to like start over, but I might have to because this red wire is just totally borked. Um, I could theoretically thread both at the same time, but then I won't know which one's coming out until they come out, and then it's like, well, that's where we're at. Yeah, see, it doesn't give me enough room to kind of like bend them around. I'm going to kit bash an Origin Sharzaku with some goof parts. Yeah, I think that sounds like a fun build. The Origin Sharzaku line, like whether it's the Zaku ones or the Zaku twos, they all are fantastic kits. Man, yeah, I've kinked this red wire so much that it is not wanting to stay straight when it goes down into the handle. I wonder if I need to clear some debris out of here. Let's try. Getting in here with this guy. Just. The other thing that I was glad that I managed to avoid doing was I didn't have to cut the beam sabers in half in order to do this wiring. So if I can continue that trend on this one, I will be happy. There we go. There we go. Finally snaked it through. And it's on the wrong side. No, I'm just kidding. That's actually the right side. We have our positive lead there and negative lead there. Which is why I'm glad that I'm doing it this way, where I'm doing the beam saber handle first and then the hand, because, like, can you imagine if I had to do these in a very specific order after the fact? What a nightmare. Okay, I see you there. Come on out. Come on. I wonder if I can, like, just grab the edge of it with my hobby knife and just ease it on out. Come on now. Great, now I'm having a issue on the reverse side. All right. There we are. Come on, little fella. Give me just a moment. I'm going to grab my tweezers here. Yeah, my tweezers were away from my desk because of the other thing that I forgot to show you guys, the other progress that I've made on this kit. There we go. Woo! We did it. So the other thing that I've got ready for this kit is the 3D printed Glemmy Toto miniature. I'm pretty happy with how the scale turned out because, like, for instance, this is the 1/100th scale Camille figure. Now, of course, I printed mine without the base. Um, I don't know why. You guys know me. I don't like to have things that kind of reveal that this is a toy and not, like actual people. So whenever I print minis like this, excuse me, whenever I print minis like this, I don't want them to have like a little standee with them. So yeah, there's our little Glimmy. I'm gonna have to paint him up. Now the part of this that I wish I had done beforehand, which now I'm gonna have to do much, much, much more carefully, is we're gonna have to carve a little slot for the LED to sit in once the wires are fully retracted. So I'm going to just put a little notch right there, fold the wires over, put a little notch right there, do my best to not cut the wires. And this is something that I had already done with the other one. I will show you. So I cut like a little notch out there so that the LED has a nice little home to sit in when the cap of the beam saber is on top. And of course, the further recessed the LED is into this part, the less of that outer glow you're going to see. I mean, it's not the end of the world to me, but does kind of damage the effect a little bit, the visual effect, when you can see that there's like a light in the base of the handle. And remember, I hadn't even planned on doing it this way. I was going to use those EL wires, but I mean, there's no way in hell I was going to be able to pack this huge inverter into anywhere in the Bawoo. I saw some people suggest that like I hide it in the base, but I don't have time for all that. Maybe if I were not on the time crunch that I'm on, I would consider doing something like I was thinking to myself, man, it's going to suck when I run the wires through this and connect it to the torso. Like, I'm never going to be able to disconnect it again, right? But in the future, how cool would it be if I could take, like, if I could take like a tiny strip of steel and we wrap it around the peg joint, and then that's our negative contact. And then we put a tiny piece of steel on the tip, and that's our positive contact point. And so then basically we would create that same sort of metal conductive juncture the same thing that you would expect from like a light bulb, the way that light bulbs work, where you put them in and like the side is your negative and the center is your positive. And then that way, every individual component could be wired separately, and it's only when they're connected together that you get the full light up effect. That is going to be my next feat of engineering, but I think to do that I should practice on like one of those 1/48th scale mega size Gundams. That's not something that I am comfortable doing, not even at 1/100th or 1/60th scale, let alone 1 to 1/44th, which is my scale of choice. But it's just funny to think about these things. Like, these are the types of engineering decisions that I've been finding myself making lately. Okay, we've got our tiny little LED in place. Now we can put the cap on. We can try to put the cap on. Glue it to a piece of clear plastic from bubble packaging. That's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea at all. Come, come on, you motherfucker. I hope I didn't just break the connection of the LED, otherwise I'm going to be really sad. Nope. Clean connection, which means now we have two totally functional beam sabers. Although I worry that I just used a white light and not a yellow one, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be lighting up a yellow piece of plastic anyway. So we are all good. What I might actually do, though, is while I've got these guys, I'm just going to go ahead and hit them with a little bit of our Mr. Cement. Not a ton, not trying to go crazy with it, but I do want to seal up this joint so that it's not, prone to coming apart. Just going to give it a little bit of pressure, but, I'm not trying to, go crazy with it. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm like a modern day Bill Nye the Science Guy, but for plastic models. That's kind of what I'm going for. I like to think I am like the Brad Leone of Gunpla. If you guys are familiar with Brad Leone, the chef, he's a bit of an oddball. All right. And again, I think the reason that I enjoy doing this and the reason that I enjoy kind of sharing these processes with you guys is because, I want to encourage people to get outside their comfort zone and to do things that, that they think are intimidating, because I think what you'll find is that the intimidation is all in your mind. The limits are all in your mind. So when the whole thing is assembled, it's going to look something like this. Man, nah, I don't think that's going to work because we still need it to connect to this somehow. So if the max extension of this is going to be right here, I just want to try and mark this point so that I know where I'm going to be putting our hole. My streams are like getting learnt with Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. Yeah, there it is. Uh, no one wants to admit that they ate 9 cans of ravioli. So, like I said, the objective here is I want to drill the hole as high up on this side as we can, so that when the arm is bent, the hole is not exposed. So, if like let's imagine this is the arm at full extension, we want our hole somewhere right in here. Give me just a moment here. Today we'll be creating a blowtorch to recreate the Big Zam or the Southern Cross team. But yeah, give me just a moment. Sorry about that. And I just realized that my fancy intermission screen no longer shows the chat. I need to fix that. But before we do the thing with the drilling of the hole there, what we should do is cut out this part that I was talking about, because this is going to be what allows our wire to flow freely into the uh, elbow. That's what I was trying to say. Now I will switch to the saw here momentarily, but I'm using the hobby knife to get a strong pilot line because I'm really worried about hitting the actual joint of the elbow. That would ruin all of our lives. So, but yeah, the whole thing about this build in particular, it's like, I'm going into it with like a rough idea of what I want to do, but as you guys are quickly learning, do I look like the kind of guy with a plan? Everything I am doing here is by the seat of my pantalones because, um, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. All right, let's get in here. We're going to use our little Hasegawa saw. It's going to make this a very difficult spot to clean up too because I can't cut it from like the perpendicular angle that I'm going to need to do here. I might just have to go full hobby knife on this one because the saw is proving too difficult to maneuver in this tight space with the risk of, cutting up other things. Let me get in here with the old nippers. We're just going to kind of bend this out. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. We can kind of like tear it. Rip and tear and all that metal stuff. Okay. So that is what we're looking for, is that nice clear channel. Or Chanel, if you want to be fancy. A wing zero and a prayer, yeah. What's a Gundam wing term that rhymes with halfway there? Something Troa's hair? I don't know. I mean, I'm not super upset if this doesn't look incredibly clean. Like I said, um, this is how much you're going to see of it from the outside. So it's actually like not a big deal. However, this part, we are concerned about what you are going to see. And I think for the sake of having enough room for both wires to pass through and, you know, just like be unobtrusive. I mean, this actually looks like it can be a little further down. Let's double check here. Yeah. Either I had that the other way, because this doesn't seem right. Hold on here. So if this is the whole arm assembly, all right, so this is our whole arm assembly. Oh, so I see. The gray actually angles slightly out, and that's why this sits lower than it should. But the wire does not get exposed unless the arm is rotated. What is that? More than 60 degrees? And even so, I think what we're going to do is we're going to make it just a tiny little hole, and then we're going to thread the thing inside so that it's not going to be this massive exposed you know, thing. Would a vice grip be helpful in something like that where you're trying to make that a clear channel? Probably. I've always wanted to get one of those, like, is it Disbay that makes the little like jeweler's vice grip? It's like an omnidirectional grip that you can. It's got like four pegs, and they pinch the part that you're working on. I mean, that would definitely be helpful, but you know, we work with the tools we've got. All right. So then let's try to visualize what we've got here. And I still haven't even made a hole in the inside of the arm here for the wire to pass through. So that's a whole other thing. Okay, come on, little guy. So that wire is going to come up there and probably run it up through the bicep there. So yeah, we are going to want to make sure that there's plenty of slack, because as you can see, there's lots of motion going on in there. That makes me very nervous. But that's also one of the reasons that I'm glad that we're doing it inside of this wide cavity like this, so that there is room for all of this motion. It would be a really unfortunate turn of events. So, like, for instance, let's give it a little bit more slack, and then we can wrap it up inside here. And so this way, if we have plenty of slack inside there, it's never going to pull the wire out of the. Let me know if you guys can see that. I'm kind of obstructing the light there. Yeah, if we've got plenty of slack in there, it really doesn't matter what angle we turn the arm at. But, there is like a lot of motion in there. If it were inside of a tiny confined space, like what you'll find is like with these beam saber handles, there's like no room for the wire to move around inside there. Like they are they are where they are going to be and where they are going to remain. Um, and then once we get this polycap back in place, you're going to see that this is not going to have any slack at all. So we're going to almost need like slack points. So for instance, we're going to have a lot more wire between the elbow and the forearm. And then we're going to need a lot more wire between the shoulder and the torso. But like the elbow can afford to be tight because there's really not a lot of motion going on in the elbow. All of the motion is happening inside the forearm. So, progress. Now, what I might do says, as I mentioned, we're going to need a little bit more room inside of here. I'm going to show you guys a little magic trick that I have learned to use. Is whenever possible, I like to cut polycaps and not plastic because it is a lot easier to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to sort of notch out a path for the wires to sit on the inside of the polycap, which I can do with the hobby knife relatively easily. I know that it's not going to be exposed. It's all hidden inside of the part. So, yeah. This is something that I do with high grades a lot. Like, if I have a wire that is going to go through a waist joint or even like through the peg that goes into the head, I would sooner carve away at the rubber of the polycap than to try and drill holes into the hard polystyrene plastic. It's just easier to work with to me. Now, I probably don't have to go all the way around. I probably only have to do like 3/4 of the way. Probably not even that. Probably only halfway because it's really only that small little passage. But the idea is that what this is going to allow me to do is I can then take our wire and tuck it inside of that little notch that we just created. And then it is hidden inside of our joint here. And there we go. Like I said, we leave plenty of slack here in the forearm. If the wire gets exposed, it's really only going to be like a tiny, tiny little bit. In fact, let's just go ahead and do a rough assembly here to see what we've got. Oh, I guess I need this part. Close the forearm up. And again, it's not going to be a perfect fit because I am currently still missing the hole that is supposed to go in there. But I just want to give you guys an idea of what this finished product is going to look like once it is all fit together properly. Oh, well, I suppose I forgot the... For those participating in the drinking game, take a shot as I missed a part. All right. So, here we go. We've got our wire that comes up from the hand. We've got our elbow joint. And I mean, look at that. That, even at like a 90-degree bend, that is the, well, I guess you guys can't see it. Well, that's the point, right? The point is we're trying to hide that wire. So when the arm is extended beyond where it's supposed to be, you can kind of see a little wire there peeking out. It's like, hello. But then, even at this 90-degree bend, we're still fairly hidden. I don't even know if you guys can see that. It's like right there, that little guy right there. Autofocus probably isn't even letting you see it. So, I think that this is going to work beauteously. And then from there, we are just going to take that wire and run it up through the shoulder joint, like I mentioned. And then this is going to have a similar layout to what we just did with the elbow, because as you can see, this is our shoulder. So as you can see with our shoulder joint, we have that same sort of polycap wedged inside of a part there. And we are going to need to try and get that to come through here. And so we don't want to put another hole in, you know, we don't want to create a tension point, right? That's the goal here, is to have it just kind of run parallel to the way that the joint comes out. And it looks like what we might even be able to do, depending on how this works, it's always a good idea to see exactly how the mechanics of the situation are going to operate. Because the idea is I'm going to want to drill a hole through this joint that allows the wire to pass into the torso. And then once it's in there, we can just run it down. I'm going to need a lot of wire for this for this to work. I mean, we're talking about, I mean, as the crow flies, we're looking at, I would say 30, well, that would be like 35 to 40 millimeters there. That's probably like 10 to 15. Inside the elbow, we're going to need like about 7. And then, so what's that, like 50, 57, maybe 6. So, I mean, we're looking at, just for the arm alone, probably close to 65, 70 millimeters. And then even just when we get up here, we're going to need probably, I would say 25 to 30, and then another like 35 to 40, just to make sure that we have enough slack. So we need about like 100 millimeters of wire to run all the way from the hand through the torso into the backpack where our batteries are going to be stored. So I might end up having to daisy chain some wires together, which I'm not opposed to doing, but it does increase the likelihood of me screwing something up, which, as you guys know, I don't need any help doing that. And this is just one arm. I need to do this whole thing again. I guess we can do this whole process without the actual shoulder armor, because that doesn't really play into what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and put our hole in here. A lot of drilling holes, a lot of making channels and guiding wires into places. Oh. You guys gotta tell me when I'm doing stuff off camera. Now I had thought, um, see what I need is like a 12-inch long version of this drill bit because as you guys know, my goal has been to take these. This is one of the filaments from the EL wire. Now, if I could just run this into the beam saber, then, dude, we could get an awesome beam saber effect part going. Because this is too bendy, it doesn't hold its shape very well. So the idea would be I need to drill a hole through the full length of this that is just barely big enough to cram that wire into, and then we'd have a really kick-ass beam saber effect part. But I've tried everything. I've tried potting it in resin. I've tried 3D printing beam sabers with like a 1 millimeter hole through them, and none of that works. So, and they do make rigid EL wire, but basically their version of rigid EL wire is that they have a black wire inside of it that is the rigid part. So it's kind of cheating, and it ruins the effect, in my opinion. And this is a long channel to run through. There we go. We cleared the other end here. Now, when this connects here, let's take a look at what we're working with here. So, oh, that is, wait, which part is that? Okay. So this is the joint that comes up. We're going to grab this wire. And then the shoulder joint is this one. And that's where we are going to run the wire through. And then the whole thing connects together like this. And it is going to create a lot of tension in there if we don't do this right. I think I might like, and you guys tell me if you think this is a good idea. I might wire each individual joint. So I'll do like one for the shoulder, one for the elbow, one for the wrist. I'll wire them individually apart from each other and then solder the ends together in order to bring them together. And that's going to give me all the slack that I need in between them. Because like this, for instance, like clearly I don't know how much extra wire gets eaten up when we do this. It doesn't look like a ton. But like, if we give it the full rotation to do this, that is how much wire we need. So basically, whatever's left, that's what we're left with. I think the light piping aspect is good enough, though. Gives you more of that lightsaber effect. Though I think it would be cool to be able to do what you're describing. I think so. I mean, um, one of the things that I really don't like is when we do the beam saber, like the way that we're doing it now, is the way that the light effect drops off. If this were a more conductive material, a more refractory material. I'm not sure how to describe what I'm looking for, like something that's going to help diffuse the light a little bit more effectively. Then I think it would the effect would look a lot better. Then the other issue I'm having here is I'm going to want to run this wire. Right now it's just running through the side of the bicep. We want it to run straight through the center. And the reason for that is so that it can connect to that. And this peg goes all the way down to the bottom there. Yeah, I think wiring these individual pieces and then soldering them together is going to prevent it's going to prevent any issues that I have where, like, for instance, if I'm trying to thread a wire through and I've got this big old wad of solder that keeps me from getting the wire in, I'll be able to, accommodate that. I think that's just going to be the way we do it. So yeah. For now, though, I think that we are going to actually whip out the old soldering iron and put together some of these metal plates that are going to go on the beam saber handles, because we're going to need to start doing that here soon. All right. Let's pull this back a little bit. Make some room here for Mr. Solder Station. Freaking Bawoo head. All right. Got plenty of little shavings and stuff everywhere here. Oh, so here is my fancy solder station. Now let's grab the old soldering iron. And this is actually going to free up some spare wire for me, because as I cut the wire on the beam sabers down to length, it's going to give me a couple of lengths of wire to actually work with when I'm assembling this whole thing. So I'm just going to kind of make a little makeshift rest for this. Yeah, this is a terrible idea. Oh, see you later, Ian. May your oil change go well. Let's see. Give me just a moment here. Okay. Let's get our cables and everything in order. If I can grab this extension cord. All right. Soldering iron. Fortunately, this is all made of metal. As long as I don't drop it like I did the one time that I burned the crap out of my finger trying to catch the falling soldering iron. Ooh, careful, I don't want to jab the Bawoo. Start melting him. Then I'll have to come up with a reason for why it's battle damaged. Okay. So while this is heating up, I'm going to come in here with our beam saber handle. Hey, what's going on, Ash? Good to see you. And we are going to, I don't want to cut down too much. I do want to leave like a little length in case I screw up, aka when I screw up. So we'll cut that guy down to there, and we'll cut this guy down to here. I'm going to set those over in my scrap wire collection because we are going to need all the scrap wire we can get for this project. And then the next step is we're going to need to expose some of our wire here. Unfortunately, I don't have wire strippers this small, so I just have to be really, 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 really careful. There we go. Come on now. There we go. So we've got our exposed wire here. And the objective I'm okay, saw your last build. Oh, I don't know which build was that. That's you did some incredible things, dude. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a scrappy job, but someone has to do it. Yeah, you know. We all the only way to get good at something is to suck at it for a really long time. And I don't know how to tell you guys this, but I suck really well. Wait, that came out wrong. No, I mean, I have been really bad at this for a long time. Oh, man. I just... I feel like Kurt Angle trying to cut a promo. Oh, yeah. That was a fun little project with the 3D printer and the straw, which I still have tons of that Stanley mug straw. So I'm like, well, do I print more capsules or do I do something? I don't know. We'll come up with something. So I think the first step, I'm going to solder. I'm just going to put a little bit of solder onto the metal plate that we are going to be wiring up our beam saber with. Okay. Let's see how this looks. See, this is how I burn myself. That is not nearly enough solder. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use this soldering station like an actual soldering station. And I'm going to clip the beam saber into place. And then we're just going to put the solder straight onto the wire here. There we go. And then we're just going to remelt that solder. Oh, I realize you guys can't really even see this here. All right. So we've got a little ball of solder there that we've put onto our wire. Nope. So now both sides have a little ball of solder on them. Just going to cut that off. When I customize, I only craft weapons, shields, some armor print. I mean, that is... I wish that I could use pla plate better. I admire the people that do, because I am not very good with pla plate. I just, like, I can't get things symmetrical. So, like, anything that requires me to do something by hand symmetrically, so whether it's cutting pla plate or scribing panel lines, I am not very good at it. So that's where it's like I lean on things like 3D printing as like a crutch. Like, I think that plot plate and putty is way more impressive than anything that I do. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to solder this negative lead onto our steel plate. Although it doesn't want to stick. Oh, did it? Excuse me. So yeah, to give you guys an idea of what we're trying to do here, I'm trying to get that plate soldered onto here so that when we glue it in place onto the little tab there, then when it's inserted into the hole of the handle, then yeah, we can get our light effect to come to yeah, come to fruition there. There we go. See, that's the effect that we're looking for. Let me grab our other little plate here. I might have to cut a fresh one. Nope, we got one. Tiny little metal scraps, which I have cut from this battery plate, so at least I know that they're conductive. Let's, all right, bend this out of the way. Also, because with, or what, okay, because with the paint and manual crafting, it's taking me so much time. Yeah, that's exactly. And what people don't understand is like, I think that some people assume that like 3D printing is cheating because, the printer does most of the work, but it's like you actually have to be very good at designing printable parts in order for a 3D printed part to actually work the way you want it to. So, as you can see, we've got our little metal plates on our parts here. Let's just make sure that they are still conductive, because if I glue them in place and they don't work, then we are going to be up a creek, as they say. Okay. Beam saber handle is still working. So then what we're going to do is trim these back a little bit, because we don't need all this wire dangling off the sides, right? Oh, of course, I trimmed the actual part that's soldered on. Well, at least I can trim the negative lead here. And so, yeah, what we're going to do is just basically kind of stuff this wire back in there and get that plate in place. At least that's the idea. I think I need more solder on there. Honestly, it's like I'm considering, just because I'm worried about getting this thing actually inside the handle. I'm going to trim off even more of the wire, which is getting a little dangerous because I don't want to expose the handle of the beam saber to too much heat, as it will melt. But I think we can do this. Ah, see, Ash, I'm with you. I've got a little toddler, and so I don't have time to, to sit and cut and, do all of the things. In fact, for me, one of the only reasons that I got into doing LEDs and stuff is because when my daughter was born, it's like, man, I don't have the time to get all of like my paints out and all that stuff. It's like I need to do things that I can do when she's asleep, like right now. She's down for her nap and I can do this, and it's not like, you know, uh it's not like with paints where it's like, oh, well, shoot, I need to put everything away and make sure that I clean my brushes and all that stuff and clean out my airbrush. If she wakes up, I'm just gonna unplug this and go upstairs, and it's all good. Um, Whereas with painting, there's all of this buy-in as far as like how much time it takes to start and stop the process, and so anything that I can do to mitigate that is ideal. And so that's where it's like, honestly, I am probably just gonna only paint with rattle cans from now on. Like, hang up the airbrush, um, at least for the foreseeable future. Because then at least I know it's just like, um. So now I need to put another dollop of uh, solder on these wires so that we've got something to work with. Okay. I can come in here and just snip off the rest. Um, but yeah, and as far as the 3D printing goes, I think that people have this misconception that, you can just grab a 3D file, throw it on the printer, and go. And it is nothing could be further from the truth. Like, it is, yeah, you can grab something off of Thingiverse, or if like you download like a professional file, then that is something. But uh, if you're talking about like designing something from scratch, most people have no idea how to design for 3D printing. Um, and like I know everyone got excited when those Gundam Metaverse files leaked because they were like, "Oh man, free Gunpla! We're gonna go 3D print our Gunpla," and it's like, if you were gonna do anything with those files, you would have to really know how to use them, and like, you know, yeah, it's those files were not what they claimed to be, or not what people thought they would be. Let me put it that way. People who are not familiar with 3D printing have no idea how useless that stuff was. But yeah, thank you for saying that. I definitely have to finish this project by the 13th because that is competition day. That is when the judging happens on this piece. Oh, come on. This plate does not want to stick to the wire at all. That's like the solder is moving up the wire here. Maybe I should actually use this. The problem is like I would love to use like the actual parts of the soldering station, but like um I really can't with that little steel plate. I did, however, just break my positive lead, So now I have very, very little wire to work with. I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna get this to work. That is way not enough wire. Oh, cheers, Ash. Thanks for popping in. Maybe let's switch to the other beam saber handle for a minute. Okay. Just gonna twirl. Let's see if we can't strip the wire this way. Hey, look at that. That was clean. That was clean. So what if I put my dollop of solder onto the plates instead of trying to put it on the wire? Problem is it just runs right off the plate. And I think that's the issue that I'm having here. Maybe I need to like score it up with some sandpaper or something. Oh, come on. Or maybe I need like some flux or something. Yeah, I think that might be the way I have to do it is like solder a little wire to the plate and then solder the wire to the other wire or something like that. The problem is I'm just having a really hard time getting it to stick to these plates and stay on there. And it's frustrating because it's like I had it. And then as soon as I was like, okay, let's clean these up, it's like boop, falls off. So what if I did this? Is like instead of trying to trim the wire, basically I'm just trying to melt the shielding off of the wire as I'm soldering it. Because then if I can do that, then I can just do that to this end and not try to shave it off. And ultimately, it has to be able to work with this guy, right? So, like, you know, these guys need to. And maybe that's the secret is like, instead of trying to solder these plates on here, I just bend the wire in. And then when it goes into the slot here, it makes its connection. But I do feel like we need something bigger than just that tiny wire to be exposed. So we'll have to figure something out here. Now, granted, I can install a larger steel plate on the inside of these hands. And I plan to. I plan to like put like a nice hefty chunk of metal in there to be conductive. But man, none of it works if we can't get these things to connect right. Let's try using some of the steel instead of the battery plate one. We're going to use the Hasegawa this stuff came off of the Hasegawa saw set that I had, like just some of the scrap metal from the frame. See if we can cut it down here. Come on now. It worked for me before. Okay, here it's snapping now. Okay, so it's sort of there. Not only do I like this, well, we'll see. We'll see if it solders better, but the idea here is I'm hoping that this works because it's lower profile than that other metal too. Like this is paper thin. So I think it's going to give us a much better final product than the big honkin' piece of steel. Come on, there we go. All right. So we've got our tiny piece of steel. Let's see what we can do. See if we can make some magic happen. I wonder if I can just do it this way. Just position the wire above the plate and then just ooh, careful. Let's get some of this solder out of the way. It really does just not want to stick to this plate. Okay. Oh, oh no. I lost my little plate. Give me just a second here. I think I see it. Okay, there's only a little bit of cat fur on it. Okay. So let's zoom in here. Hopefully you guys can see this a little bit better now. I'm going to position our wire over our tiny little plate. I've got our solder and our iron. Maybe I need one that's less oxidized. Okay, so we got a little bit of solder on the wire. Now, if I can just get it to stick to the plate, we'd be in business. Okay. Man, this just does not want to stay in place. And I actually, like, starting to, like, melt the plate to the, hmm. Well, maybe this just isn't going to happen today. The old soldering part. It will be much easier, as mentioned when we were talking about the soldering of the joint parts earlier. It'll be much easier to do something like this, where, say, for instance, we've got our parts that we can suspend in the air, and we can, like, align our wires like this. Oh, just realized you guys can't see that. There we go. So, like I was saying earlier, we're gonna basically rig up these parts where each part is wired together, and then we will just solder a point of wire in the middle, close it up, and we'll be in business. As for the beam saber stuff, this is a mystery. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'll figure it out. Rest assured. Until then, I am going to go ahead and take off. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for tuning in for this, you know, this project process stream. I hope to make a little bit more progress, before Wednesday's show, and we'll show some of that off, hopefully. Hope you guys are excited. I actually have a special guest joining us this Wednesday, something a little bit outside the usual. So I hope you guys are excited about it. I am. I was very excited when he said that he was going to be interested. So, yeah, Wednesday's show at 1 p.m. Eastern. Definitely hop in and, drop any questions you'd like me to ask the mystery guest before then. Until then, like I said, you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I will catch you later.